Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I'm here before you today as a demonstration of what I wanted to get from my life as part of my good, but I didn't want it quite so quickly. Randy mentioned a little while ago that Mercury is in retrograde, and maybe I could blame it on that. But I started out this morning, I started out a week or so back. I was watching Ilana Van Zandt on Hay House Summit. And she was just so magnificent up on stage, you know, just walked right out, no notes, doesn't lean on the podium like I do half the time. And I told myself, and of course the universe and spirit, which is everywhere, gosh, I need to polish my skills and get to be as good as she is, where I could be there and I not have to have any notes at all and stop leaning on the podium like I'm tired or whatever. I forgot to tell the universe when I wanted to do that. So I'm getting the opportunity today because Mercury got in retrograde. The printer at the office that I have downtown wasn't working. I don't have the passwords to any of the other, well, I told myself in the meantime, I need to get a little technologically better. I'm so used to handwriting my notes, and I come up here with all this bunch of papers and shuffle them around. And I thought, well, I'm going to get a little higher tech. So I was taking my notes on my iPhone. I emailed them to myself. I thought I'm going to get them printed out. It's going to look so much more polished and professional. Wrong. So the printers didn't work there. I didn't allow enough time to go across town to my office in Telshore to do it. I will do it at the church. Well, you guys must know something I didn't. You can already tell what's going to happen. So I didn't get them. So there we are. So now I have to be up here practicing what I'm preaching by talking to you today about drawing on your good. And I had a little confusion about the topic this month. And I see it's in the bulletin now. And it's drawing in your good, which is not what I thought it was. I thought it was drawing on your good. And then I heard Ron's talk. I watched it on YouTube. And I saw that he's talking about drawing in your good. So I decided, well, that must be it. The universe wants me to talk about both. So what I've done is put it together, and I'm going to talk to you today about drawing in your good by drawing on your good. So this is the good that we already have, that we already are, that we are the legacy of our family members, the people around us who have helped us and taught us and served us over the years, that all of that is what our good is. So what it is, my definition of this, what is our good, is who you are and what you have in this moment, and what you are drawing through to you of more of that in this same moment. What Doug talked about, that it's the good and more good that's always coming, which is the natural evolution of things, as he read in his reading. So that's what I'm calling good. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about today that's a part of our good, it's not all of our good, but it's a part of our good, is money. Tough conversation sometimes. But I want to talk about money because it's an energy that we can quantify. You know, I'm always talking to you about how my life is the laboratory. Our lives are the experiments that we're doing in our beingness. And because I have this tendency to teach what it is I need to learn, I want to talk about money today because I need to get my prosperity consciousness back up. So I'm just here, again, as always, processing for myself, sharing with you. If it works for you, if it helps, great. If not, I apologize in advance, and next time we'll do better. But this idea of money that's quantifiable energy, because it's something that we can measure as a source of how our good is coming from source. You know, it's not a matter of lack of resource. It's a matter of lack of resourcing to source. And part of that source is us. You know, we're all in nature a part of God. God is in us, and as the godlets, as Tina says, that we are, we come out in an individualized persona or personality of that God that we are. So each of us is individual, each of us has individual strengths, each of us has brought to our lived life who we became up to now. We talked before last month about the I am consciousness, that I am the consciousness that I was, and that we have the opportunity to shift that in this moment. So that's the part of the good that I want to focus a little bit on, is who you are, how you got there, and then how we might be able to use money as the quantifiable calibrator or measure of our good as it's coming through to us. I call it my charmed life. You guys have heard me say this before, that it's my charmed life. That when I have the idea that everything is good, it's all for my good, nobody's misbehaving, it's all for my good. You've heard me say that before. Then it's my charmed life. And it's only my charmed life to the extent that I'm willing to perceive it that way. So how do we draw in our good from our good is to take who we are and what we have become and use that to draw more of what we want and less of what we don't want, getting rid of the limitations like Doug was reading about. Just setting them aside, just forgetting about them. Just, we want to look at what the part of us that is limitless, not limited. That's our good. And sometimes the things that we believe are our limitations, we are able to perceive also as our good. I read a story in one of the books that I brought with me today about a man named David Boyce, who was an attorney for the United States federal government, who sued Microsoft over some little problem. And he grew up, and still is to this day, dyslexic. Now, many of us would look at that as a limitation. As a consequence of his limitation, he trained himself as an attorney to keep it simple. He can't get up and use a bunch of big words because he's afraid he'll mispronounce them and garble up his speech. And through the process of his being the attorney representing the United States government in this lawsuit against Microsoft, he was able, through the process of slow and steady and small words and repetition, to break down Bill Gates in deposition to get to the point where he would acknowledge that Microsoft had done what the government said, no, you shouldn't have done this. So his dyslexia was his limitation that became his good, that was a part of who he was, and how he used that as a strength rather than as a weakness. So I want to talk about how we can focus on our strengths, accentuate the positive, and diminish the negative. So our good is really comprised, if we look at it, at what we're good at, who we're good with, and how we can create more of that makes us feel good, right? What we're good at, who we're good with, and what makes us feel good. Now, I'm not talking about if it feels good, do it, in that sense of, because we're all kind of hardwired to have a little bit of that naughtiness in us, that maybe we'd be tempted to say, oh, this feels good, I'll do that. No, it's more about getting spiritually centered and recognizing what it is inside of us that is rewarding, that is satisfying, that is making us feel good in that respect. And I would submit to you that we do feel good when we do good. And when we do good, we do well. And we do well financially when we do good. So I'm going to invite you to come from contribution rather than lack, as Doug was reading to us about. That when we put those thoughts of lack and limitation into our process, that's what it is we produce. That the process produces that outcome of our thoughts. So if we're unwilling to have those thoughts anymore and to change that process, we can change that outcome. That's what we teach here. The problem that we have sometimes is that we see everything as a problem, and we don't recognize that what we need to do is to, what I've talked about before, is re-identify, reinterpret, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about reimagining. Reimagining. Imagining it differently, imagining it how you want it, imagining who you are differently, if that's what it needs to be. And I'm not here, again, I said, not here to talk about fixing the things that are broken or taking yourself out of the present moment because you're so worried, like I was, about, oh, what am I going to say? How am I going to talk? I can't read my notes. I don't have anything to look at, really, that's readable. I will have to talk from God more than ever. I have to open up the channel. I have to allow it to come through. Because who I am and what I have is a gift to offer. And if I don't focus on that gift to offer and allow it to be here for you and come from contribution, rather than worrying over my lack or my limitation, I won't be able to help you or me. So coming from contribution is a place to start. We have a saying in the 12-step program that you have to give it away to keep it. And the idea behind that is that practicing it, by giving it away, by offering up to others what we've had from our experience, strength, and hope, is what will help someone else along the path. But by the same token, we're staying in that vibration of what we know that's good, and we're practicing it. And that's how we're doing well, by doing good. So reimagining it is a matter of allowing ourselves to have a different picture in our minds, a different vision, if you will. Let me see if I can get my readings here together and figure this out. This is from The Door of Everything by Ruby Nelson, who says that since the surface mind itself is a screening master, once an image has fallen into the feelings and been sustained there, the manifestation of the image perceived becomes automatic. So if we're able to see that picture in our minds up on that master screen of what it is we want and how it is we want it, it should be following that the projector that we turned on in our mind is going to project that up on the screen, and that's going to become the reality automatically. So we want to imagine these things. Now, back to the money thing, you know, all of our problems are created by imagination, and all of them are solved by imagination. As I mentioned, money is the one thing that is an energetic source that is quantifiable, that we can see. Is it really working? Is it happening? Have I done something that's changed, that's shifting things here? And one of the things about it, too, that it's a problem that we all have had or will have or think we might have or others around us have had. It's the one thing that shows up on the surveys of people in business, people in marriages, people in whatever, that's the thing that's their big problem, is they perceive that they don't have enough money. So if we have these things going on in our 3D world, we have to figure out some way to improve upon it and to deal with it. And I want to consider this at the individual level as well as the collective level, because you guys here at CSL are facing challenges around money and thinking about how to improve that whole situation. Well, reimagine it. So we have to let go of these old ideas. It's about the energy. It's not a cognitive thing. You know, it's not this from here up kind of stuff. It's a feeling. It's a vibration. It's an opportunity to shift your vibration in general. And then the money comes. The resources come. The opportunities come because you're in the present moment and you're alive, awake, aware, and noticing what's coming through for you. You know, some of you might be noticing today that Randy Granger's here performing wonderfully, and you might be noticing your resonance with it. You might be thinking, I want to go on that trip with the Breedloves. And Peggy, I'm going to. And these are the things that you might not notice if you're sitting here like I was 25 minutes ago thinking, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I don't know. That takes us out of the moment. That takes us out of that present moment, which is the only moment in which the creative process can actually be activated. And if our moment is being filled with this lack, limitation, ideation that is not the imagination we want to have, that's what we're going to create, because that was the creative process right then and there that was available to us in this moment. So the issues about money, or the problems about money, are problems of the imagination, and the solution is one of imagination. Now, I don't want to sound like some Pollyanna that says, oh, well, just think about it differently. But in reality, that's really all it takes. It sounds simple, but we know it's not easy. So we've come to this life with part of this legacy of our families that Doug was talking about that sometimes has not served us well. Many of us grew up with ideas around money that are our values today, because it is done unto us as we believe. Is that what you read this morning, Doug? It is done unto us as we believe. And we have developed beliefs and values around those beliefs over the years that came mostly from our childhood, where that 3 or 4 or 5 or 7-year-old that, imagine, would you turn the decisions in your life over to a child that age? Well, we do. We have a lot of what those things are that we have incorporated into the decisions we made at those ages with the things that were going on around us are what's running our lives today. That whole subconscious, malleable part in the middle there was created there and it can be uncreated there by a little bit of recognition and noticing on our part and practicing some different principles. So when I talk about money, what I want us to think about is that money has meaning. And perhaps what we need to do in order to change how it's working in our lives is to change the meaning behind it. Most of us have come to this process with the meaning of what our parents gave us or the people around us gave us, where the meaning was, oh, money's a struggle, oh, money's difficult, oh, money's hard, you have to work hard, or money's terrible, that's just filthy lucre, you don't want to have anything to do with it, the people that have money are horrible, evil people. Or money doesn't grow on trees. I mean, all these things that we heard and that we continue to hear in our culture and our society are part of what we took on. And then we watched, we observed, we experienced whatever we experienced in our households around the idea of money. We can't afford that. Oh, we'll never be able to do that. We can't go on that vacation. None of those things is going to be possible for us. You know, the kinds of things that we took on as children because these authority figures in our lives were all we knew. I mean, they were our God at that point in time. And we took all of that in. So the meanings behind the money are what we need to get to the level of changing the belief and the value in order to shift that. So it's about time that we up-leveled our consciousness about our good that involves the idea of money. We talk about, oh, well, it's an abundant universe, it's this, it's that, it's all that wonderful stuff, and yet something is back there that's holding us back. There's, again, it's energetic, not cognitive. So there's something there energetically that holds me back or holds you back that is probably based in that background of our childhood and our experiences through life, that because our childhood was helping to control what our decisions were, just got reaffirmed. It was like the self-fulfilling prophecy kind of a thing that has happened to many of us, to look back into the patterns of our lives. So that energetic aspect of it where we decided, well, money doesn't matter. We're spiritual. It's not going to be important. We are just going to be the monk on the mountain and we don't need this stuff. It's not important to me. Well, that's kind of like saying if you're in a relationship or you want to be in a relationship, oh, relationship's not important to me. Well, how would your relationship look? What kind of experience would you be having with your relationship? You said, well, that doesn't matter. I'm spiritual. I'm above that. I don't need that. And that's what's going to show up because that's what you're thinking. So I'm just inviting all of us to recreate and rethink and reimagine the meaning behind money. So if you were to make a list of the things that you value and what you'd like to do with money, who would be on your list? What would be on your list of who you would help, who you would come from contribution with money if you had more money than you knew what to do with or than you had need for? You know, who would you help? I'm thinking, you know, think Bill Gates, Bill and Melinda Gates, or Mother Teresa. You know, people who bring money in and then find ways to better the world. I heard yesterday from my friend Chip Frank, who called, and he's talking about this movie he saw called Slingshot. I haven't seen it. I don't know if anybody in the room has seen it or not, but it's about the fellow who invented the Segways. So, you know, he used his creative resources to make money, and then once he had a few extra gazillion, he had to figure out what to do with it. So what he did is come up with the idea, this invention that purifies water easily on the spot. But the problem is he had to figure out a way to get that to the spot. So he had a distribution challenge. Well, again, it's not a matter of lack of resources. It's sometimes resourcefulness. You know, it's looking for where the source is. Or like the story that Reverend Sandy used to tell us about the gurus, community that needed to build their ashram in their community, and they had to go out and figure out how to get the money. And one of the people in the said, "Oh, but Guru, where are we going to get the money? Where are we going to get the money?" And his answer was, "Well, from wherever it is now." So that's what this guy named Camden did, who wanted to get this water purifier to the spot where the water needed to be purified, which of course is, you know, throughout the third world and many, many places. And what he thought about was who has the distribution system already in place that I could piggyback onto. And so he made an alliance with Coca-Cola. Now, we might think, bad stuff, Coca-Cola. And yet, there was the recognition on his part that his resource was there if he were willing to take it and take the steps to ask and to make this alliance with Coca-Cola so that he could get his little water purifier that he wants to donate to these places throughout the world to where he wants them to get. Because purifying water right here with the instrument that he had wasn't all that much help. He had to get it out to where it needed to go. So we have to look at what our sources and resources are and reimagine how we can allow that to come in and draw on our good that's available to us in order to draw in our good. So imagine how much good he's going to be able to help to create in other people's lives as a consequence of what he did with his money and what he did with his own resources by drawing on his good to draw in his good for himself and for others. And that's all I'm suggesting, that all of us up-level our consciousness to think about that as well. So money does matter, and what's on your list is part of what you could give new meaning to how the money in your life could be utilized. If you don't think you need it for you, well, I'm spiritual and it doesn't matter, and you know, so I can be an aesthetic and just sit back and not worry about it. Well, how much more good could you do in your life and the lives of others if you had more money? Can you do more good with more money or less money? Well, so the opportunities are there. There's plenty of it out there. I heard Chris Howard on a thing on the internet talking about how there's $13 trillion circulating every single day in the world. So just jump in there and manage your share of it, you know, or get more than your fair share of it. And let's all just make the decision to do that. It's a difficult decision to make sometimes because we hold ourselves back with all that other energetic withhold that I was talking about. So my first suggestion would be happy. We have this attitude that, well, when I get the money, I'll be happy. When I have this, I'll be happy. If only this, it'll make me happy. Well, I would submit to you that happiness is an attraction. Doug was reading to us from the law of attraction. I mean, who would you rather be with in your life? Somebody that's happy or somebody that's negative and not happy? Well, who's attracting whom? You know, it's the happy people that attract us. And being happy is just a way of making a decision that will set up a different vibrational frequency in your life that will attract more good into you from the good that you are, have, and feel good about, all in one, right? So I couldn't find my book. I'm still unpacking in my move, and some of you who know me know I have a gajillion books, and so I haven't uncovered my book on the power versus force. But I wanted to mention it today, even though I didn't bring it to show you the book or show you the cover. I do have something that I will send to you from the book if you sign up on my email list, which is a chart called the Omega Chart. The Power versus Force book by David Hawkins is based on the research that he did, which is partly muscle testing and partly galvanized skin testing, to see how people's vibrational frequencies are responding at certain levels and what that calibration is, micro milliwatts or something. At any rate, in this chart, 200 and below is pretty much a drag. And you want to get up higher than that. 700 is like about the tops. He calls that enlightenment. I think Jesus calibrates at 1,000, and so, you know, we're not going to probably aspire to get much more than the 700 in this lifetime. But joy and love are right in there in the 500s. And I'm okay with starting there. Like, if I could get to the 540 that's joy or the 500 that's love, what a level of frequency of attraction I could be generating that would be felt by everyone around me. I hope you feel some of it anyway, but I mean, I want to keep it up there. It's about the consistency and persistency of it that provides that permeation of the beingness that we become rather than having to strive to become, rather than having to overcome to become. So I want to practice more of that. So that law of attraction and that frequency of attraction of being happy. So I'll tell you a little story about Chip that he told me yesterday, because I think this will illustrate what I'm talking about how you set up this attractiveness of happiness. You come from contribution, and you do well as a consequence of doing good. So Chip was telling me, Chip Frank is the widower of the former minister here, Reverend Candy Frank. Smith Frank, depending on if any of you might have known her. So Chip lives in Hawaii now, has for several years, and he's a massage therapist over there. And I wore this today in honor of Chip because I bought this in Maui, where he lives. It's about his way of attracting business to his massage therapy business. Well, he loves to be on the beach and throw frisbee and walk, and one of the things that he's telling me that he does on the beach is he picks up the trash. So he's doing some good there in his little, as we say in Spanish, in su propio patio, in his own backyard. This is where I think the good is most able to be done for any of us, right there in our home, in our yard, in our house, in our neighborhood, in our community, in our state. You know, it works outward from there. Start at home. It begins inside here with me. So he's picking up trash on the beach, and he has a T-shirt that he had made that has the name of his massage therapy school, not school, but business on it, called Awakening Hands. So, and he does the massage on the beach. You know, he takes his table down to the beach and he does this kind of stuff. So he throws frisbee, he walks on the beach, he picks up trash, he wears his T-shirt, and he's happy because he's doing what he loves. He's doing what his passion is. This is another thing that I want to mention to you about your values and your true nature and your passion. And people just sort of are attracted to him, go figure, and come up to him, and he's got this shirt on, and oh, who are you, and what do you do, and gosh, you're having fun, and can I throw the frisbee with you? And because most of the people that are there are on vacation. He lives near Wailea Resort, and so that's where he is. And he was telling me this story about how this woman came up to him day before yesterday. She's a stewardess for some airline. She comes to the island every other day or every third day or something like that. And so she booked him up for appointments for the next month or so, you know, once or twice a week. Well, that's going to bring him money and a way to support what it is he does by being happy and doing good. I don't know if that's a good story, but I thought it was one I'd tell you because I kind of wait for the download of things from Spirit that come through to me that I need to share with you. And so that was part of what I thought I need to share that story as an illustration of how being good, doing good, feeling good, setting up that vibrational frequency is that law of attraction that's going to bring to you what it is you want, including that stuff that we call money. So it's about your values. I mentioned before that we have to change our belief system and our values so we can get rid of those blockages that are back there in our subconscious that are energetically holding us back or freezing us in place or causing us to be fearful. Or, you know, some people are afraid of money. They're afraid of the success that money might be. You know, there's a lot of things that could go on. You just need to find out what it is for you, because we're all individuals and we all have different backgrounds and different lives that we've brought to the moment. But your values are something that you need to understand what they are. Now, one of the books that I brought today, well, I've been working with my sister in Missouri who's thinking about getting into the real estate business. And one of the things that I recommended to her was that she take this personality profile test to see, you know, does she have the personality construct by her nature that lends itself to being successful in the sales industry and in the real estate business. Because we have things in our own individualized nature. We're all a part of that nature of God, and we have that in common. But each of us has different strengths and different elements to our character that are part of our personality. But in this book that's called, and this came up out of the book box yesterday, so I thought, well, for sure I'm supposed to talk about this. It's called Now Discover Your Strengths. My daughter turned me on to this a number of years ago when she was in the management at Starbucks. And I want to speak to you a little bit about what else it says. But it talks about how what you need to do is focus on your strengths and not on your weaknesses, and allow the weaknesses just to fall by the side because your strengths become so prominent in what you do in your life. And there's so many things out there that we're told in our lives or by our bosses or in our workaday world that are our limitations that we've got to work on. We've got to fix those weaknesses. Baloney. You know, first of all, one of the books I brought today too is Carl Jung said that criticism, it only serves in a circumstance where you want to actually destroy or reduce something. It doesn't help at all in a circumstance where you want to build something up. So I'm not going to bother with that quotation. But many of these things that they think they can teach you in the business world, like empathy or instinct or the ability to strategize, they can't break those things down and teach them no matter how hard they try to do it, and it just won't work. So one of the things that I'm trying to remember the page numbers that I had in here, and so I may not be able to read it to you, but essentially what he talks about in the book here is that you must focus on changing your values and your belief system, not on changing your weaknesses, not on working on your limitations. It's about focusing on your strengths. And the way that they talk about values here too is something that I want to bring to your attention. If you were to sit down and make a list of the things that you believe that you value in your life, and then, and I suggest that you consider doing this as an exercise for your homework here, and then prioritize that list, and then and only then take a look at what your lived life is actually showing up as, and see where the incongruence is. You know, if I were to look at my values, it would just tell me that all I value is clothing, jewelry, shoes, and, you know. That's my lived life right now. Books, I've got, you know, all these things in my life that I'm having to deal with right now. So that's what's showing up as my lived life for me in the moment. So maybe I want to shift that. Maybe I want to change that value. Maybe that belief system behind what it is that makes me think I have to have all that, you know, that the one who has the most when she dies wins or something. It's not that kind of a thing, right? What I do know is I have to be present to win. We got to be present in this moment, you know, to win in that game called life. But he talks about how do you identify what your talents are, and he talks about what is your top of mind reaction, especially if you're under stress. What do you come to top of mind? What's your first spontaneous reaction to something? So it's reactions, satisfactions, in other words, what makes you feel good, like I said earlier, what makes you feel good. And by the way, I had started all of these things on the talk before this book showed up, and I was just happy to see it be kind of in alignment. And then your yearnings and your learnings. Those are your talents. Those are your resources. That's what it is that you are, that you have, that are the strongest things that you have to work from your good, to draw on your good in order to draw in your good. And I want to offer you something else that if you sign up on my sheet out there today, I'll send you on the email. A number of years ago, I took one of these personality profiles when I started in the real estate business 41 plus years ago. And more recently, when I went to the Keller Williams office, they had this other one that they paid $225 for me to take, which is called the DISC, D-I-S-C. Don't know if any of you have heard of it or not. But subsequent to that time frame, some magnificent being who had it in his heart to offer more to the world, to come from contribution from his good, named Tony Robbins. Some of you may have heard of him. He worked out a deal with the company that puts this personality profile thing together, and he offers it for free on his website. And if you all sign up, I'll send you the link to the personality profile test on the website, where you'll get in 45 minutes for free. You can go online and you can take the test, and I am here to tell you it's right on stuff. I've seen it in me, I've seen it in other people that I've worked with over the years now who have taken it, and I just recently did it with my sister. I offered it up to her, and she just told me it's spot on. Everything is just exactly right on. But there's two components. One is tells you what your strengths are, and the other component tells you what your values are. So if you work with the context of that kind of information, where, you know, a lot of times, as I was talking with Lauren yesterday, things are hidden in plain sight. You know, people around us see much more what our values are and to see much more of what our our strengths are sometimes than we do. So the objective third party of these psychologists that have put these tests together over the years is great. And by the way, in this book here, this took 25 years, 2 million people who took their personality profile with them, for them to develop 34 strengths. So you can go and buy this book at Barnes & Noble or wherever, and it comes inside of it, it comes with a code that you can go online and take their test, which is essentially incorporated in the price of the book. Or you can go and take the Tony Robbins thing for free. But I highly recommend it. I would even recommend it to the board here, that you all take it. And then you know who each other is more, and you have a way of working with it, because it offers up suggestions, the Robbins stuff, offers up suggestions of how to work with the people around you with their strengths, where it's all about focusing on putting the right person in the right seat on the bus, in your business, in whatever endeavor you're on. Or the bus to Yakima, however the bus shows up. Those are options that I would offer up to you. So it's all about being good, and doing well, and working from that energetic place to shift whatever you can with the traumas and dramas in your life that have given you the idea that you don't want money, you don't like money, or money can't be yours. And in closing, I want to talk to you a little bit about what Ernest has to say, if I can find my place here. I did mark this one. Doug read to us from the Law of Attraction, and this is from the How It Works, which is called the No Limit to Thought. And the field throughout which thought operates is infinite, and there's no reason to doubt it. No matter how it's approached, to thought, there can be no limit. And we will say that it is the nature of our being to react in this way. Here and now, we are surrounded by and immersed in an infinite good. How much of this infinite good is ours? All of it. And how much of it may we have to use? This is all in caps. As much of it as we can embody. Look to who you are, what you have already embodied, what your values and your strengths are. Find what your good is so that you can draw from that good, to draw on that good, to draw in your good while you're feeling good.